Hi, I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my blog at stampwithelaine.com. Today I have a fun fold card. It's a trifold and I'm using these pretty papers from Masterfully Made suite, which you can find on pages 102 to 103 of the May 23 to April 24 annual catalogue. Earlier in the week I had featured the Gorgeously Made stamp set, and these are the dies that go with it, and today we're going to be using this leaf die and the label. There are only 5 dies in the set. If you don't like to physically tear your paper, this die will die cut a raggedy edge that resembles torn paper. And then this one I featured was with the spiral file detail, and I used the open work leaf die for that one. Today I'm going to be using this die and that, and also from the Stylish Shapes dies, the second smallest stitch circle die. You'll need fresh freesia and Azure Afternoon scrap paper, and I've gone ahead and die cut the label of this leaf, which looks like that when it's die cut, and the stitch circle in fresh freesia. Today we're going to be making this trifold card, and it tucks in there when you're posting it to keep the card closed, and then when you pop it open you can display it like so. So it would look like that. You take an A4 sheet. In Europe this measures 8 1/4 by 11 3/4, and in metric that will be 21 centimeters by 29 centimeters. US letter size will work out at 8 1/2 by 11. To cut the card base, you need to mark your cardstock on the short side at 5 1/2 inches. Rotate the cardstock 180 degrees and measure the opposite side at 5 1/2 inches. Bring in the trimmer, and then you want to put the mark you made in the cutting groove. So that's in the cutting groove, and there's the 5 1/2 inch mark. So I'm going to cut between those two lines. And that will make 2 trifold diagonally cut cards. With the US letter size, although the cardstock is slightly different and it measures 8 1/2 by 11, you still mark the short side at 5 1/2 inches on opposite ends and cut between the two lines. In metric that will be 14 centimeters at either end. Then with a scoring, you orient your cardstock so that the straight edge is at the top and the narrow end is on the left, and you score at 3 1/4 inches and 7 1/4 inches. In metric that will be 8 centimeters and 18.5 centimeters, and for the US letter size that will be 3 inches and 6 3/4 inches. The first fold is a valley fold, the second fold is a mountain fold, so your first flap should be facing the left, and that card opens in the middle. The fold is on the left. So for the trifold, first fold is on the right, second fold is on the left. Then you want the Masterfully Made Designer Series paper. You need 2 patterns if you want the back panel and the front panel to be the same, or you can opt to have 3 panels all different. It's up to you. So this first panel will go on the back here. This middle one will go here, and the smallest one will go here, and then you also need a basic white one which will go on the back of this middle panel here. And the reason they're cut at rectangles is so that you can offer it up to the cardstock with a 1/4 of an inch gap there and equidistance on the panel on the two sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a bit of glue on the back of these because that will help me anchor the paper to the cardstock so that it doesn't move while I'm trying to cut the diagonal. You don't need a lot of glue, just a little bit. And allow that to dry and it will be repositionable. While that's drying, I'll run through the other items you need. You need the Baker's Twine Essentials pack, crumb cake I think it is, and the white 10 yards long or 9.1 meters, and then the other 3 colours in the basic black, grey granite and very vanilla has 5 yards on the spool, and that's 4.6 meters. The other item I'm using are the Tinsel Gems 3-pack, and the inks I'm using are Azure Afternoon and Fresh Freesia. I'm waiting for the Designer Series paper glue to dry on the back. I'm going to stamp in Fresh Freesia on this circle. Now I want to stamp my label, and I'm just going to line the label up along the grid line, ink up the stamp in Azure Afternoon and stamp. So now I want to put my paper 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom so I can line the straight edge up and use the grid paper to help me. Okay, so 1/4 of an inch will be there, and you want it to be even Stevens on either side. Okay, and then you can use your scissors to snip off the surplus like so, and then glue it onto your cardstock. So I've applied adhesive on, and I'm just going to glue that so that there's an even border on all 4 sides. Now the middle panel, panel 2, the DSP measures 4 1/4 in height and 3 3/4 in width. In metric that will be 10.8 centimeters and 10 centimeters in width. And US it will be 4 1/4 in height and 3 1/2 in width. So I'm going to pop that on in the middle panel, fold that back so it's easier for me to gauge where the 1/4 inch is. Just make sure that these 2 sides are equidistant, and then turn your cardstock round and cut along there. I've applied adhesive on the back. Now I'm going to glue that to my card like so. So that's the middle done. Now we want the back piece. Now this back piece measures 5 1/4 in height and 4 1/4 in width. In centimeters that will be 13.5 in height and 10.7 centimeters in width. So let's pop that in there. Make sure it's 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom, equidistance from both sides, and then from the back trim that off. I've applied adhesive on the back, and now I'm ready to pop it on my card. Now for the basic white piece for here. It also measures the same as the designer series on the paper on the back. So this is 4 1/4 in height and 3 3/4 in width. The US size will be 4 1/4 by 3 1/2. Okay, so we're going to glue that, and this is the bit we're going to stamp on, but I'm not going to stamp on it yet until I've cut it. I'm going to stamp this leaf in fresh freesia, just right at the bottom here. I've applied adhesive onto the back of the stamped piece and just glue it onto the middle panel. So bring back the circle that I cut, and I'm just going to put the dimensional directly onto the middle panel, shy of the closure of the front panel. Remove that and pop this on. Now bring back the label, and I'm going to put dimensionals from the middle portion and the end. I want to leave this section free so that it doesn't interfere with the closure of over the circle, because you have to remove that to tuck it in. Adhere the flower, so I'm going to just use glue dots along the leaf, I think. Move the tape on the dimensionals and pop that on. Tie my baker's twine into a bow. Trim off the ends and then attach the baker's twine to the card here. Last finishing touch are the little gems. So this time I'll use the blue ones up here, a large and a small, and pop one over the flower centre here. Whoops. So there's your trifold card completed. You just bend that back and tuck it in, and that's why I didn't want any dimensionals on the end of this card. But you can display it just like this, or you can display it with it open like that, and then it will look like this on the front. So I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. As usual, all the supply links are below this video in the show more section, and I'll put a link to my blog because it's got all the measurements there. Thanks for joining me today, and do pop back for more inspiration next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.